Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, class, let's start with the new topic, the defense mechanisms. First of all, the result of the previous test was a little bit better, but obviously it's not up to mark as the 60% failed and only, you know, 40% make it pass. So, but obviously it's better from the 16%. So keep it up, and especially those students uh, who become failed, they need to focus more on the test. Just a minute. Okay, so let's start with the today's topic, the defense mechanisms. Can anyone explain the Freud's personality theory? What did he said about the personality? What did he said about the topographical model? Anyone? And what did he said about the structural model of mind, that how, what is mind, how it works, what are its subcomponents? Quickly, so that the today's topic will be easy. This topic is easy as well as it is very interesting. As after reading these defense mechanisms, you guys would be able to, relate the reason of the behavior of the different people. Yes, personality. That what is personality as per Freud, and secondly, what the Freud did said about the structural and the topographical model of mind, that how the mind works, what are the subcomponents of mind, how they interact with each other, etc. After learning this defense mechanism, you will be able that from where a person is talking, that from where the talk, from where the actions are originating, what are the real intentions to hide the real emotions, that how we handle our stressors in the daily life. Yes, player seeking behavior good enough. Ability to think, intellect is mind. No, that's not the mind as per Freud. Alicia, okay, let me explain. Mind is basically an invisible structure of the personality. That's the pattern of characteristic behavior, motives. This is the definition of personality, and the force which drives our personality is known as the mind. Got it? So, what is the simple definition of mind? That hidden structure that controls our personality, that that guide our personality, from where our personality drives. It is basically the software of your personality is known as the mind. Got it? In the simple, in the IT term. Hopefully, it's clear now. Now, mind contains the subcomponents as per the Freud's theory. You read about this component, that is the conscious, unconscious, and the subconscious. Conscious is that part of the mind which actually you display to the other people, to the rest of the world, to interact with the rest of the world. Whereas the unconscious is that part of the mind on which our hidden wishes are there, on which our hidden memory is there, on which our defense mechanisms are there. It is known as the unconscious, and the link between the two is the subconscious. Then the Freud give the another theory about the id ego and the superego. Hopefully you guys know what are these three things. So what is it and what is ego? What is id? Id. Anyone? No, seriously. Or at least write it, that you guys didn't knew about it, so that I can revise. Hello, everyone. Are you guys there or not? Yes, it is personality component, but what it is, in fact. Yes, yes. Oh, what it is? How you will define the id, or how you will define the ego or the super ego, etc. Satisfaction is not the function of the id; it is a task of it. Okay, let me explain one thing for you guys. As I said, that mind is made up of three basic components: conscious, unconscious, and the subconscious. Conscious is that from which we are interacting with the physical world, we are dealing with the stressors of the physical world. Basically, the real problem is a stressor or the challenge which the environment will pose on an individual after his birth. As an individual came from a highly protective environment from which there is no, oh, please no, these are not the brain processes. Please no. Yes, to compete with the stress. Half you're good, half you're wrong. Okay, so basically, the basic problem is with the challenges of the environment or with the stressors of the environment. As an individual came from a highly protective environment from mother womb, from where there is automatic food processing. It is a highly protective environment from the rest of the world. But when he came into this world, he realizes that there are the strange people with the strange faces, with the strange language. He didn't have any memory of this world. He came from another world. So that's the basic energy which drives all these components. So now what happened? That the unconscious portion of your mind, it contains certain motives, it contains certain things which should be fulfilled at any cost. These certain needs are known as the id. Freud labeled it as the id, that these are the basic urges of our personality, these are the basic things of our personality, these are the basic requirements that should be fulfilled. Like it cannot wait. When the urge comes from the id, then it should be fulfilled immediately. It wants the immediate gratification, right? But in the real world, obviously, it's not possible. Immediate gratification is possible at the very early stages of our life, like we are when we are infant, when we are so little that everyone can pity on us. But as we grow older, these immediate gratifications is not possible, is it? Huh? So what happened that our unconscious mind learned that the immediate gratification is not possible. There must be certain, ways to fulfill it. So for that purpose, with the passage of time, as per the Freud's theory, I will just give you a reference. As today's topic is about the defense mechanism, it's not about the mind or the personality development. So to fulfill that urges in a more manageable way, in a more meaningful way that the world likes, mind develops the second component known as the ego. Ego regulates our id processes, or ego regulates our id things which cannot be gratified immediately. You guys got the idea or not? So quickly write in the comments that what is the difference between the id and the ego. Quickly write it down, as it's a little bit theory, and without this insight there is no point to teach you guys about the, obviously yes sir, but what it is, write it down quickly. What you learned right now, what is it and what is ego? Good enough, good, excellent. And it is an instinct for the purpose of maintaining life, for the purpose of living life, right? Like to urge to eat, urge to drink, urge to sleep, these are all components, these are all instincts that are derived from the id. And obviously we cannot eat, we cannot sleep at any moment, at any place right now. So there must be a way to express this wish, there must be a way to express this instinct. So for the sake of this expression, for the sake of this convenience, our mind develop a second component, our mind develop a second force, which is known as the ego. Ego basically interacts with the environment, ego basically look after that what is going on in the environment, and then it will manipulate, it will formulate a strategy. And under this strategy, it will it will process the id instinct, which is environmentally, which is which is compatible with the physical world. Now got the point? Okay, good enough. Now, in the process of this compatibility, oh, just a minute, I'm just talking about the superego. Because if the id and the ego is not clear, then the superego will make a milkshake in your mind. So, in the process of arranging this id instinct as per the environmental, expectations, ego should consider a second component, which is known as the morality of the environment, the moral component of the environment. So, when the ego start considering the morality, then we will label it as the superego, the a thing that is above the ego, the morality, moral character. Why there is a need to consider the morality? Because humans are supposed to live in groups, humans are supposed to live in the civilized way, human is a social animal, right? So the social animals are always living in the groups, in the clusters. So whenever the animals or the humans are living in the clusters, in the groups, in the form of colonies, so they have formulated their own ethics, they have formulated their own things, which is known as the culture. And this morality or the moral character is a part of the culture. So in order to fulfill the wishes of the id, in order to fulfill the demands of the id, ego first have to consider the reality, then the ego should have to consider these moral aspects, that how the society thinks, how the society particularly behaves about this particular instinct. So this particular way of the morality is known as the superego. So simply, in simple words, which you have learned in the previous lectures, ego is the balancing force between the id and the superego. Why? Because id demands the basic instincts which should be fulfilled right now, and the superego will demand always a morality which should be fulfilled like according to the society norms. So keep in balance between these two forces, our mind develops a third force known as the ego. Hopefully now it's clear that how our mind works. Yes or no? Please write it down, because without this understanding, you guys cannot got the idea what are the defense mechanisms, how they behave, how they act. Is it clear for everyone, or it is just clear for the Fatima and the Ikra? Yes, ego balances. I got. I explained why it balances and why there is a need of the superego. What about the other guys, the other 38 people? Did they got the idea that how this mind thing works and why there is a need of id, why there is a need of ego, and why there is a need of superego? I guess there must be a second lecture, a revision lecture on this personality thing. Is it clear for the rest of people or not? Are the other 37 people there or not? I don't think so. They are there. Okay, good enough. Now, the story of defense mechanisms begins from here. Now, listen carefully. It's a very interesting story. Good enough. Thank you so much. Okay, listen. As I said that when we came into this physical word, this harsh word, if I say the appropriate word, why I'm using the harsh word? Because people are strange. We don't have any memory that how we should eat, how we should talk, and how we should interact with this, super world. So inside our mind we are very terrified, inside from our mind we become very, uh, there is always a label of the danger, there is always a label of strange. It's just like that. If I will hijack all of you, and when when you land, after 1.5 hours or two, after 2 hours, you will land on the Mars, on the planet Mars. How you will feel? Strange now. So same thing happens with the newborn. So there's a lot of anxiety that how I should express my hunger, how should I should express my thirst, etc. So nature put certain things in as instinct into our mind, into our brain, which are in the form of which psychologically represented in the form of it. As the wishes of it cannot be fulfilled for the whole life, right now, right, when it is required. So the nature give us another component known as the ego. Ego actually do nothing. Ego works at the both levels, at the conscious as well as the unconscious. So what ego will do? Ego first will monitor the physical world, then ego will interact with the id. Hey mister, this wish cannot be fulfilled right now, but if you hang on just a few seconds, I will develop a strategy. Please listen it carefully. This is a story which runs right after birth until the death. So ego talk about with the id that this wish, this particular hunger wish, this particular sleep wish, it cannot be fulfilled right now. You have to hang it on, so that I can develop, I can formulate an action plan. So now ego will monitor the environment, the physical world. Then ego will monitor his or her own resources. Then ego will develop a way that in the class you will ask the teacher that can I go for the drinking water, right? For example, you have to meet with some of your friend, you have to go the cafe. Then in the class you will ask, as per the society norms, as per the classroom norms, that can I go outside, I'm getting so much bored, I got the headache. Now you got the reason that why you are developing the belly pain right before going to school. So these are all the strategies of the ego. Got it so far? Now, in order to formulate these strategies, as ego have to work a lot, as ego have to monitor the environment constantly, ego have to satisfy the id, otherwise the id will bombard the whole mind. Seriously, this is what happened during the anxiety disorders. This is what happened during our this depression phase, etc. That the id demands are so much enormous that the ego cannot handle it, and there is a bombs inside your mind. Now, in order to handle this enormous anxiety that ego have, on the one side ego have to satisfy the environment, and on the other side ego have to satisfy the id. Ego develops certain mechanisms, ego develops certain strategies, ego develops certain procedures known as the defense mechanisms, right? So now you got the idea where this defense mechanism, why the Freud gave it the name the defense mechanism, because it defend the ego against this enormous amount of stress. What is the source of this stress? The enormous amount of the war between the id wishes and the environmental expectations. Got it? Now, so what happened? I will again repeat it. Id is the storehouse of all our instincts, but the problem is that our all instincts cannot be fulfilled under any condition. There must be a way to fulfill, there must be a way which the society develops to fulfill these instincts. That which food should be eaten in the Islamic society, it's food which is eaten by the rest of the world is not permissible in the Islamic society. The concept of the halal and haram, as we have to eat, it's a basic instinct. So now it's the function of the ego that how he will convince you or he will convince the rest of the society that you should go for this eating thing. Got my point? So in order to sort out this thing, there is always a war inside your mind. Yes, cultural base. derives from the society, derives from the environmental expectations. So in order to satisfy your id as well as to satisfy this environment thing, this culture thing, this society thing, ego has to face a lot of stress. So in order to deal with this stress, ego develops a certain mechanisms which are known as the defense mechanisms. Yes, good enough. To protect itself from the from the burnout. Now you know the term the burnout, so that the ego should have a valid reason. Got it? Now I should go to start it. Hopefully the purpose of teaching or the purpose of the today's lecture is clear. Now why it's important to learn it? Because if you will have no idea about the defenses, then you will got no idea that why this person is behaving in a particular way. Our behavior, yes, manipulation of mind, exactly, good enough. You will got no idea that why this person is certainly denying from everything. You have no idea that this person is hating me so much, then why is showing the so love. So in order to understand the behavior, the concept of defense mechanism is very important. As per the Freud, life is not easy, obviously. So I will skip it. Yes, always remember one thing. There are certain principles, obviously, to read these defense mechanisms. The first universal principle is that all defense mechanisms they operate at the unconscious level. Always remember it. All defense mechanisms will develop during the course of your personality development. Right after birth, there is no defense mechanism. That's why the newborn baby only knew one thing, that how to just weep. Got it? How to just how he just have only one way to express everything, by weeping. That's it. We develop all these defense mechanisms during the course of our personality development. Obviously how they are developed, how each defense mechanism is developed, it is a well established thing which is available in the literature, but it is obviously far behind your syllabus, and far behind your learning level. So if anyone is interested, then he can a little bit explore Google. There is every detail, that from where it comes, what is the first defense mechanism, how it happened, each and everything, etc. Blah blah. So right now, what is the purpose? You should know about the definition of the defense mechanism, a little bit theory which I told earlier, that what is the purpose, how it happened, and with a few qualities of the defense mechanism. And the next thing which you guys should know for the exam purpose, the defense mechanism name, and then one, two, or the three properties about it, what it is in fact. Got it? So now talk about, after learning that what are they, from where they are derived, what is the purpose, let's see what are the characteristics. So the first characteristic of the defense mechanism is that it always works, it always operates at the unconscious level. Now please consider this thing, this word. When I said unconscious, then this means that the person is even not aware what's going on, why I am behaving this. If a third observer who is observing the both persons, he has the knowledge of the psychology, he has the knowledge about these things, then he will manipulate, okay, he's right now working on this defense mechanism. Got my point? Secondly, there is no defense mechanism right after birth. We acquired it after interacting with this world, and during the course of our personality development, during the course of our oral, anal, phallic, genital stage and the latency stage. Got it? Third characteristic of this defense mechanism is that it is universal. I have the same defense mechanism as all of you guys. We all humans have the same set of defense mechanisms. And the last and the fourth quality is that these defense mechanisms would display it right after birth. We start displaying it during the oral anal stage till the death, and we are daily behaving it. We are daily displaying all of these defense mechanisms, but sticking to one defense mechanisms, solving the daily life stressors with one defense mechanism, either encouraged by society or either encouraged by ourselves, it will lead to various sort of pathologies, various sort of psychological morbidities. Got it? Huh. And the last thing is that only one defense mechanism operate at the conscious level, which is known as the suppression. Suppression. Now, hopefully these characteristics are clear. If not clear, then please let me know. I will not go into this detail as I told you guys earlier. It's just a review. So if you guys want it, then please just consider this picture. If it is clear, then we can go ahead, and if it is not clear, then please let me know before starting these defense mechanisms. Is this picture understandable or not? Okay, good enough. This has happened with the ego. This Saturn on the right side of the pic is the your id, and the other angel on the left side is your super ego, and this is the ego inside you. Okay, there is no need to go into history. Simple as that. They are originally coined by the Freud. Later on, his daughter Anna Freud it worked on it, and later on, the other people worked on it. The latest classification, latest I will not say. The person who formally classified them, that was a George Gilliant, but there is no need to study who is George Gilliant and what is his classes and the subclasses at your level, at the undergrad level. There is just need to consider all these words that what are they, which are right now displaying in front of you. So let's start with the first defense mechanism, the denial. Is I'm clear so far? If I'm clear, then it would be very easy to go ahead. Otherwise, it's a whole confusion. Okay, good enough. So let's start with the first defense. Okay, the first thing is the denial. To unconsciously deny from the situation. In simple words, to unconsciously said that this thing never happened. If the situation, if the environment is so stressful that for a brief period of time we become numb, and we just said that, oh no, no, it cannot be happened with me. How it is possible, right? God forbid if someone got the supplementary, and if someone failed in an exam, then for the 1 week or for the 10 days, it is something that we are unable to believe on the information. Got it or not? So this defense mechanism is known as the denial. For example, as shown in this picture, that this man, he becomes stuck into this rope thing, and he denies that I can come out anytime. Got it? So this is the first, our defense mechanism, known as the denial. So what is denial? That we're denying the life situation, we're denying the reality, that no, 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 this cannot be happened with me. A patient who just diagnosed with some sort of cancer, with some sort of lung carcinoma, he straight away denies it. He will go from the one physician, from one doctor towards another doctor, that doctor, please recheck my reports. It cannot be happened with me. A student who just got the supply, he will formulate a lot of strategies. No, 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 paper might be wrongly checked. We will present application before the VC, as this cannot be happened with us. How it is possible? I struggle so hard. How I can get failed? So these are all examples of the denial. Is it clear? Okay. Second defense mechanism is the displacement, or its official name, which is given by the Freud, is the displacement of anger. Now what happened that we display our feelings, our negative feelings basically, from the real object towards another object, towards another individual, which is less dangerous, which is less powerful. For example, you just your teacher is just angry on you, As you know that the teacher is an high power, teacher is an higher in the age rank, so I cannot directly call with the teacher. So what you will do, you will find some junior, you will find some apa, you will find some the canteen staff, and you will bombard all your anger onto that person. Got it? So what you did, you basically displaced your anger from the dangerous object towards an object which is relatively innocent, which is relatively less powerful. Got it or not? Or should I repeat it? As you can see on the screen also. But for the displacement to occur, there is a universal condition that the object on which we will release our feeling, it should be of the less intensity, it should be of the less dangerous full as per our perception. Got it? So it is simply the releasing of the negative emotions from the high from the more dangerous target towards the less dangerous target, and usually the negative emotions. Got it or not? Okay. Now is the sublimation. Sublimation is similar to the displacement with only one difference. Displacement is the displaying or the releasing of the negative emotions into a less dangerous target, but in a socially negative way. Like अब आवाज ठीक है? Is my voice is clear or not? I guess there is an internet issue maybe. Okay, so displacement is basically the releasing of the negative emotion from a dangerous target towards a less dangerous target. So you can say that we do displacement in a socially unacceptable way. For example, if we are doing the displacement in a socially acceptable way, for example, you are so much fed up with your class, you are so much, there is a pink list in the right now in the campus, and you are so much fed up with all these things, and you start playing cricket, you start doing something which is socially acceptable. You go over the home, and you start punching, you go to the gym and you start doing the enormous exercise. Then this defense mechanism is known as the sublimation. So got the difference between the displacement and the sublimation? Basically things are the same, but displacement is socially unacceptable way, and the sublimation is the socially acceptable way. I will repeat it. Displacement is simply that you got so much anger, you got so much negative emotion from a person, from a thing which is not under your control, and you release all those emotions in the same tone, in the same intensity, in the same way onto an other object which is less dangerous, which is less powerful, which is less significant. This is known as the displacement. But if you release the original emotion in a more acceptable way, for example, you are so much angry, you start driving, right, in a careful way, but in a careful way. You are so much angry, you go to gym and start doing a enormous exercise. Got it? You are so much angry, as written in the example, you go for the painting. This behavior is known as the sublimation. This defense mechanism is known as the sublimation. Got it or not? Good. Okay, just consider it. This is the difference between the sublimation and the displacement. Those that are written above the arrow, negative experience, anger, disappointment, unproductive consequences. This is the displacement. And if we convert it into the sublimation, negative experience into the positive goal directed productive outcome. For example, I insulted a student so much, and from that day he starts studying so hard that in the next test he got the good results. This is the classic example of the sublimation. That is socially acceptable, socially something positive. Okay. Now, The third thing which you guys do a lot is known as the dissociation. At the start, I said that denial is something to straightforward deny from the reality, right? But after a few hours, after a few days, you start accepting it. This is known as the denial. What happened in the dissociation that you straight away dissociate from your real personality. You straight away split from your real personality. Oh, how it happened? I am not the student. For example, a student gave an exam, and when the result came, he failed. So he immediately switched his personality that I am even not the real student. This is known as the dissociation, to split his personality to handle the emotional conflict, right? But always remember, dissociation also occurs for the moments of the time. It is not permanent. Got it or not? No. Let me explain again. By dissociation, we means that we change our personality. There is an inward tag that who we are the students. We belong to this college. We belong to these parents. We belong to this society. This is something known as the identity, right? So if this the concept of this identity become deteriorated under some environmental stressors, then we will label it as the dissociation. Got it or not? Please write it down. Clear all these defense mechanisms side by side. Otherwise, when you will start reading it, if it's the concept is not clear, then you will unable to understand it. So, what is dissociation? Okay, all of us have a concept of identity. That who I am, what I am doing, from which group I belong, from which religion I have, right? So, if under certain stresses from the environment, this concept of identity become violated, this concept of identity become changed, then we will label it as the dissociation. For example, you're doing a procedure and it went wrong. For example, you're doing a root canal, and without the permission of your demonstrator, or without the permission of your HOD, and for example, you broke the instrument in the canal. So after that, you will straight away deny that I didn't did it. I don't know what happened. I was not there even at the scene, right? I have no details of that event. And as this defense mechanism operate at the unconscious level, so you will have no memory of all the incident. Got it or not? So this state is known as the dissociation. That you dissociated from your role. You become apart. You separated your real role from the role which you assumed. Now it's clear or not? As I given the example in this last box. Okay, good enough. This is something dissociation. Now, there is another defense mechanism known as the fantasy. Its real name, its complete name is the schizoid fantasy. What happened during the fantasy? During the denial, now start differentiate between these three. Denial is that state aware denying that this cannot happen with me, but please listen it carefully. Very minor differences between these three. Denial is that straight away denying from the incidents but maintaining your identity. Yes, I am student, I gave the exam, but I cannot be failed. I am a football player, I participated in the football game, but I cannot someone who can be defeated so easily. It must be a mistake of the score keeper, it must be a mistake of the some opponent party, etc. This defense is known as the denial. Now, second defense, similar defense, is known as a dissociation. Denying from the facts after violating my own identity. Oh, I am not a football player. I was just here at the scene and I saw this match happening. So maybe I played, maybe I not played, right? After failing, I have no idea what happened during the exam. I have no idea that what I wrote in the exam. I have no idea what I did with this patient. This is known as the dissociation. Now, the third defense, similar defense mechanism, is known as the fantasy. You are not, you are always living in a fantasized world that with I did, I am appearing in an exam. Now I'm expecting that I should pass with the flying colors. I knew that I didn't, the exam didn't went well. So what will happen that for the whole 1 month, for the whole 10 days, for the whole 15 days, I will live in the daydream world. Oh, it's just a matter of result. As the result will come out, I will be the topper of the university. So this daydreaming is known as the fantasy or the schizoid fantasy. Okay, should I repeat this fantasy or the previous two ones also? Ikra, please write it down. Should I repeat this current mechanism or the previous two ones? Current one. Okay. Okay. So the schizoid fantasy is that if I would substitute a word with this defense mechanism, it is simply the daydreaming of something. You have the idea, no? What is the daydreaming? For example, you are it's the first day in the surgery one department, and you are preparing for the exodontia, for the tooth extraction. Now, just after looking the instruments, you just went into the daydream after just extracting a single tooth. Now you are assuming yourself as a maxillofacial surgeon. Now I can pull any tooth in the world. So this defense mechanism would be known as the schizoid fantasy or the daydreaming. Got it or not? Just appearing in the exam, you just assume yourself that now a prestigious job is there. Now I will be the topper of the university, and the whole world would be there for interviewing me, that how you got this marvelous achievement. Got it or not? Is it clear or not? Escape from reality by just assuming, by just thinking. It is something which happened from at the at your mind level. Yes, to escape from the reality, to escape from the painful. There is a one reality, na. In order to become a successful surgeon who can pull any tooth, obviously there must be an enormous work. There must be an enormous hard work. There must be some postgraduate degree. But what is the easiest way? The easiest way is just to assume that now you are the maxillofacial surgeon of just pulling one tooth. So this fantasy is known as the schizoid fantasy. Now, just assume this. Just look at this picture. Hopefully, it's clear. Okay, now. The- so far, we are clear or not? Please write it down. Are we clear about this three, four, five defense mechanisms? Okay, good enough. Okay, the next defense mechanism is the identification. It is nothing. Identification is simply to identifying our own self with the someone. Okay, let me tell you one. The need to identity is basically something which is hidden in our id instinct, right? So we, all of us, will develop our identities mostly from those objects, mostly from those individuals who are very, famous, who are very successful in the course of their life, right? So when we are seeing a superstar, when we are seeing a super successful doctor, then we start to identify ourselves with that particular doctor. It is basically our basic instinct that we want identification of the persons in our life who are already successful. So as we knew that it is not as our ego knew that it is not possible after seeing every individual. For example, you idolize an actor, and you are 30 years old and you are a doctor. So it's a wish of your id that I should be an actor like the one who appears on the TV screen. But your ego knows that you cannot be an actor right now at this part of your age. So what your ego will do, that your ego will identify yourself from that particular actor. You will acquire certain characteristics, certain behavior things from that actor to whom like you want to become. Got it? So this defense mechanism is known as the identification, as written on the screen, that we adopting the you knew the video, a Hindi movie known as a Billu Barber. Did you guys see that movie? When the hero goes to that particular village, everyone in the village adopted the same hairstyle. So this is an example of the identification. Yes. Okay. So the ego of those village people, it dictates the id that it is not possible to become that particular hero. So just adapt the one or two characteristics of that particular your ideal, and so that you will be satisfied. Got it? So this is the example of the identification. After a patient who may be impressed from you, next time he start talking like you, he start wearing the same dress like the doctor, he start acting like the doctor. So this is known as the identification, that we identify our ideals like this, as shown in this example. Okay. Now, a similar defense mechanism to the identification is the introjection. What I said in the identification, that uh, only the one aspect of our ideal we copy. This is known as the identification. For example, if someone copies his ideal as it is, the whole, then that would be known as the introjection. Introjection, that he literally, absorbed into that other personality. Now, got the minor difference between the two? There is only the hairline between the two. In the identification, we only adapts a single trait, a single quality of our ideal, like the hairstyle, like the dress code, etc., like the way of talking. Whereas during the introjection, we are inheriting all the qualities of our ideal, right from awakening till the sleep. Got it or not? What is the difference between the two? Yes or no? Quickly write it down. I will give you another example of the introjection. Like after the death of the father, the elder son behaves like the father because he misses his father so much. It demands that the father should be present right now, but the ego dictates him. No, it's not possible, but it is possible if you behave like your father. All the qualities, the way of managing people, etc., and etc. This is something known as the introjection. Now, the next defense mechanism is the intellectualization. It is different from the rest of the others. Intellectualization simply meaning that under the enormous stress, rather than behaving in an emotional way, we behave in a rationalized way. How? That, for example, I just dictates that tomorrow is the exam of the whole behavioral sciences book. So what you guys will do, some of you will go into the denial that how we can prepare the test into the single night, etc. Some will dissociate. Oh, it's not possible, we are already the supply holders, how we can do it? They will dissociate. The very fraction of people, one or two or five or ten, what they will do, they will consult the past papers, they will consult the or important topics, they will made a list, and they will act upon that list, and they will relatively prepare it, and if they will not pass, they will not fail in the flying colors. Got my point? So this is an example of the intellectualization, that under enormous stress, ignoring our emotional component and considering the logical aspects of a situation. Okay, a situation happened, doesn't matter. Now we should formulate an action plan that how I will handle it. Got it? So this defense mechanism is known as the intellectualization. Hopefully it's easy. Huh? The thing which we are doing very no. Okay. The next defense mechanism is the projection. Projection is that spitting unconsciously spitting your own negative aspect of your personality into the social situations. For example, I am corrupt. For example, I am a cheater, and I will blame on the system. If everyone is doing cheating, how should I can avoid it? Right? If I am the one who is a smoker, I will talk loud a lot about avoiding the smoking thing. Right? Smoking is a very bad thing. Smoking should be smokers should be punished, although inside I am the biggest smoker. Got it or not? So projection, what is projection? I am a smoker. I knew that society didn't accept it. Got it? Now please listen to this story. Now my id demands that you should smoke everywhere as I am a chain smoker. But the ego told the id that, oh man, this society didn't accept the smoker people. So what it said that I have no idea what you're talking about. I want to smoke. So what strategy the ego will develops? Ego will told everyone the conscious part of our personality. Okay, start doing the hate speeches against the smoke. Smoke is a very bad thing. Smokers should be punished. Smokers should be like this. Smokers should be like this. It's something which destroys the society, etc. and etc. But inside, I want smoking. So this defense mechanism is known as the projection. As it is unconscious, so mostly under the projection, the slip of tongue occurs. So do not ignore the slip of tongue from your patient. Do not ignore the slip of tongue from your colleagues. It's a real thing. Got it? So this defense is known as the projection. Quickly have a review at this picture. Okay. A similar defense mechanism is known as the rationalization. It is nothing. Rationalization is basically the explanation of a situation. What I can do, I studied the whole book, but the whole dental material is so enormous that it should be taught from the first year till the final year in order to get successful. So I failed in the dental material subject, and now I am giving the explanations. Got it? How we can continue school during these corona days? Virus is everywhere. First the virus should subside, then we will start studying. So this defense mechanism is known as the rationalization. As the situation is not acceptable by the society, so the ego will formulate a giving the justification, thing. These two things are clear: projection and the rationalization, or not? Quickly write it down. Hello, everyone. Okay. Okay. The next thing is the reaction formation. Reaction formation is basically doing opposite of what you want. For example, you are hating of some of your fellow very much, a teacher very much, but you knew that the hate will further create difficulties. So what you will do, you will start praising the same person unconsciously. So this defense mechanism is known as the reaction formation, that you are doing the opposite of what you want. You are hating a subject very badly, but suddenly you start reading it a lot. This defense mechanism is known as the reaction formation. It's pretty simple. Now the next thing is the suppression. As I said in the earlier, that the only defense mechanism which occurs at just consider this figure at the conscious level is known as a suppression. Suppression and the repression, or for repression, these are the similar defense mechanisms. It is the only difference is that Suppression is consciously avoiding a situation, is consciously avoiding a memory, whereas repression is unconsciously avoiding a memory. For example, via suppression means, for example, you just had a hot talk with your friend right the start of the exam. During the whole exam, all the words came into your mind, and you're satisfying your mind by saying that it's the time. I will talk it after the exam. This is the example of the suppression, that you're consciously hiding your negative memory, you're consciously hiding your emotions. If the similar things happen the unconsciously, that the bad comments, the bad talks, it always occur in your dreams, in your thinking, but you do not want to remember that what happened with that particular person, then this would be known as the repression. So the only difference between the repression and the suppression is that the repression occurs at the unconscious level, whereas the suppression occurs at the conscious level. Altruism is that to do some social work for the sake of society, right? For example, under enormous stress, a lot of people start doing the charity work.